All right, so JaQuan.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
it's JaQuan, right? It's not JaQuan. You go. It's JaQuan, right?
So it's the second one, JaQuan.
JaQuan. Okay. See,
Yes,
so
sir.
there's a story I did like. I always usually look at the pronunciation guides. I used to always do that,
Yeah.
and I think it was somebody at the Senior Bowl who had an interesting last name, and
Hmm.
did the pronunciation guide, and I was like, okay, I got this. So when I meet this guy, you know, I'm gonna say his name right. And I walked up and he corrected me first thing, and I went,
Yeah.
I always.
It it happens. It happens.
So JaQuan, hey, you went to Tiffin. Um,
Yes.
that's a small school, obviously. That's not something a lot of people, not a lot of people know where Tiffin is. Ohio, right?
You're right. Nothing but corn and more corn and grass. That's all it is.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with how you got into like football and stuff.
Yeah.
When did you decide football was kind of your deal and that was where you wanted to go?
So first off, in first grade, I grew up in the east side of Cleveland, and I ended up getting into football around first grade, and we played tackle football. But after first grade, I moved into the suburbs, and when I lived in the suburbs, we didn't have tackle football; we only had flag football. So I decided to go back to. I stayed in the suburbs, but I decided to go back to East Cleveland football because that's where tackle football was, and I feel like around the age of I would say 12 and not 13, I started to fall in love with the sport because after my first couple of seasons, I wasn't as good as I thought I was going to be. I always worked hard though. That was one of my biggest niche was I worked hard. And after I want to say after fourth or fifth grade, I started taking more serious. And next thing I know, seventh grade came around and I'm balling, I'm having fun, and next thing I know, I'm playing nose tackle at like 110 pounds, getting in the backfield, tackling people. But it's like I don't know, I ended up falling in love with it. I would say sixth to seventh grade, and next thing I know, I'm here, I'm having fun with it still.
So you played basketball, you played rugby, you ran track, you did all this
Ye-
in high school, right?
yes.
And what was the kind of like where was when you decided football is what I like more than any of those?
So I would say after my sophomore year because rugby definitely made me into the man who I am today, but just rugby is really dangerous to a point. But I would say after 10th grade, I decided I need to lock in on football because football can pay for my scholarship, football can take me to the next level, and football can change my life. Not necessarily my life, but my family as well. So I would say after 10th grade, I really decided to lock in and just focus on football more than any other sport.
And that was at Westview High, correct?
So it was Westlake High.
Westlake, my bad.
No, that's good.
So who was the did you play against anybody in high school that was kind of
Uh,
the the person that you are today, I guess?
so wait, say the question again.
Was there anybody that you played in high school that really just like changed something about the way that you play the game?
Okay, I wouldn't say high school, but I would say going back to first and second grade, there was a guy named Q. Growing up, he was on my football team, and this guy, I don't know if you ever heard of Nutcracker, but it's like when two people lay on their back and someone blows a whistle and you get up and someone has a ball and someone else is on defense, obviously. But so this guy blew the windpipes out of my stomach, and ever since then, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start bringing the heat from now on because I can't just be just out here running because that's not how it works. So I
First or
would
second?
say, yeah, yeah, I would say first or second grade. That's when I was like, all right, you know what? Let me get right because you can't just come out here expecting to just run because that's at the end of the day, it's not just that. You have to know what you're doing out there. You have to know your play, have a plan B, and there's more to it. You can't just go out there and just run. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And it's kind of funny that, you played rugby. I can kind of see that in your style a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, Rugby something that I've actually done a little bit of
Hmm.
from time to time. So I understand like the difference between rugby and football and the sport and just how much more physical it is. And that's
Yeah, it
kind of
is.
play with is
Mm-hmm.
physicality. You're real quick, especially coming out of the backfield and stuff. And I think one of the things that kind of popped out on tape when I was watching you at Tiffin was kind of the offense. The offense is a really interesting offense. And they used you like a normal, regular running back, like a sort of like a 220-pound bruiser.
Yeah.
I was kind of watching it going, this is going to make my evaluation a little bit more difficult because, it's you're not going to be used like that, I don't think, itself.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting in an interview room with an NFL team and they kind of bring this up and they're kind of like, how do you feel about, being a receiver out of the backfield? What are you going to tell them?
I'm gonna say I'm okay with it. Whatever you guys need me to do, I'm gladly more than sure I can do it. Because at the end of the day, I've been working on catching tennis balls, catching footballs like every single day. Especially when it comes to tennis balls, because my hand-eye coordination is where I feel like I excel at, to be honest. And I know for a fact that I didn't get the ball thrown to me as much as I thought it was gonna happen, but at the end of the day, I'm here to do whatever a team needs me to do, whatever a GM needs me to do, and whatever it is, I'll do it gladly. I'll play my role.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I've got you at 5'9", 205. Is that about accurate?
So it's about 5'9", 217, 218.
217, 218? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to write that down real quick.
For sure.
You said you like to take notes. I'm the same way.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to put you at 218. What are you kind of hoping to be at?
So I fluctuate around 220 to 218, but where I want to be at is probably during draft day, probably 216, because I feel like that's where I'm most fast at. And I feel like around 216, I'm at like a 10 to 12% body fat. I feel like right now I'm at like a 14% body fat. So I'm still getting it down. I'm still eating healthy. I'm still working out. So I still got more work to work on, obviously. But I would say 216.
So that's a good that brings in my next point that I really want to get into is
the
2019 to 20 male athlete of the division, which was the Great Midwest. Tell us about that special season. 2019, you ran for 1,500 yards. You scored a lot of touchdowns. 11 games. That's pretty impressive even at that level.
So in the beginning of the actual season, I wasn't seeing the field as much, but like I said, I was just trying to play my role. I was doing what I was able to do. And I would say the first 2 games, I only got the ball probably 15 times. But I didn't go out yelling. I didn't go out, oh, this is your fault. I was never like that. I was more of a team player. I'm a team player. I'm a genuine person. I'm a people's person. So at the end of the day, I'm going out doing what's asked of what I need to do. And after the first 2 games, I didn't get the ball as much. And I said, you know what? It is what it is. We're going to come back next week, and we're going to ball out and have fun. So after the 3rd game, I ended up showcasing what I could really do. And that's when the coach actually paid attention to me. He was like, you know what? We might need to start giving this kid the ball more often. And I was like, you know what? I'm on the same page as you. So after the 3rd game, I just started having fun, just still being a team player. And it just took off from there. And by the next time I know it, it was like week 8, week 9, and we're facing Finley. And that was a big game for us because we've never beat them in our collegiate of D2 ever. So I took that week more personal than any other week, I would say. And that really changed our whole season because it was we made history. And like after the week after that, we had Kutztown, which was a playoff game. We've never been to the playoffs, so we were just making history back to back to back. But at the end of the day, it was just more of having fun, being a team player, and just playing your role at the end of the day.
How disappointing is it not to play this year?
Don't get me wrong, it hurts, but it's some pros and cons to it because at the end of the day, I am losing somewhat of experience, but I'm also staying in shape. I'm healthy. I'm not getting banged up. That's one thing where it's a pro, but at the same time, it's also a con because I'm not going against guys. I'm not showcasing what I can do this year, even though we just played last year. But at the end of the day, scouts and GMs want to see what I can do this year. So I feel like it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, but it could always be worse. That's how I see it.
The glass half full type mentality.
Literally.
Gotcha. So, did you receive any advice with like spring football and stuff from anybody, any coaches? Maybe you're talking to NFL people already. Was there any advice that they kind of were talking, like what to do if spring football was kind of the thing before, the division made that decision?
Right. No, I was talking with my head coach the whole time throughout the whole process, just about like every 5 days, every week or so, and he was telling me like, you know what, if we don't have a season, I understand if you opt out or if you want to chase your dreams, but if we do have a season if we do have a season during the fall season, you should stay, and we should really go for a national championship. And that was my whole mindset throughout the whole season, the whole process. And next thing I know, I get a call from my coach because rumors are going around that we're canceled and so forth and things like that. And next thing I know, like I said, I got the call talking to my coach, and then he said, yeah, our season's being canceled. Like, I understand if you don't want to play spring. I know where you're coming from. If you want to chase your dreams, do that. But if you also want to stay, do that as well, because we're going to go to the national championship with you. And I was like, I had to think about it because it was hard on me. I think it took me like a week or so to actually make up my mind, because I did want to stay for spring, but at the same time, I did want to go chase my dreams in the NFL. So it took me a while, but I would say my coach helped me to where I'm at right now to figure out my situation and chase my dreams.
You set records at Tiffin.
Yes.
And so what was the sort of, what's been your motivation while you've been there?
So my motivation is my family. I feel like because we grew up, going back to first grade, we grew up on the east side of Cleveland. East side of Cleveland was very hard. My house was robbed twice. And every time I catch myself thinking, like, is this really what I want to do? I always think about where I first came from. And it really, ever since then, it always changes my mind. Like, this is exactly what I want to do. Let me do this. Let me play my role. Let's go out here, have fun, and get this job done. So that's really what it is. My family is my motivation.
I figured with the season as special as that, there's something in the back of your mind that's kind of that gets you going. Like I mentioned before, one of the things that really popped to me is how electric you are, especially from the snap. It's you have a very good acceleration. You kick right into the play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say this about a lot of people because it's not something that's normally as noticeable, but you pump your knees. Like, that's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
Is there a story behind that kind of deal? Because it's like a pump your knees type.
So before every game, before any practice, I'm always wearing resistant bands. They're small resistant. They're literally right here. I use them every single day. I put them around my legs. I put them around my knees. And it's just, I'm putting in extra work because I always want to get that 10% better, that 20% better. I don't want to be over here doing what this guy's doing. Let me do something different. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing what this guy's doing, you're going to be just like him. So at the end of the day, it's just be different. Do something different. And those bands will help me pick up my knees. And right now, I'm still using them to this day. And it works. And I'm going to keep doing it. If not, get better at doing it every single day.
So I think the last thing that I really want to talk about is football, life after football. Is that something that's really even considered at this point?
No, it definitely has been. Like a plan B. I've always wanted to own my own type of business. Right now, I'm not so sure just yet because at the end of the day, like the world blowing up and there you can get money out of anything. That's including shoes, that's including cars, that's including gaming. Like, I've thought about owning my own business when it comes to a weight room, including a turf room put together, a training staff, a training room, my own restaurant. Like, at the end of the day, only God knows what's planned for me. But I've always thought about owning my own business. Not so sure just yet, but I definitely want to own my own business.
I was reading with this one interview, research. Have you ever talked to an NFL team yet, or any?
So, not necessarily. My coach has told me things in sort of that nature of teams liking me, teams thinking I'm a developmental player, teams thinking that I might be a practice player. It's all over the place. But at the end of the day, NFL's cutthroat. They tell you a bunch of stuff, and then you can be cut the next day. So. Yeah. I just try to, if it's me, I'm gonna go out there and give it my all. And at the end of the day, it's just if you're doing your best and you're doing your best, you can only control what you can control.
So if you ever hear this catchphrase,
Mm-hmm.
like it's we've done our research on you.
Yes.
I want to hear back from you. I want to hear how you reacted to that. That's always kind of. I'll say that a lot, and I'm like, I wonder if I picked that up from somebody. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in the research, I was reading through these interviews, and I saw there was somebody was talking about some of the things that you do with the community, and I saw that you talked about you help kids with disabilities.
Yeah. So in high school, so in high school, my freshman year after the track season, one of my mom's friend, her daughter has Down syndrome, so I took her daughter to prom, and I'm still in touch with her. Her name is TT, and her mom's name is TJ. But on top of that, in high school, I also helped out. Not even just in high school, middle school up to high school, I was helping kids during gym classes that had Down syndrome, that were autistic, that were handicapped basically. And it's like I see them just like me because they're always happy. That's another thing that kind of brings me to joy because they're always laughing, they're always giggling. I'm like, oh my god, like they're having fun. Like if people are out here with negative spirits, it only gets worse for them. But there's kids out here with Down syndrome, autistic, kids that are handicapped that are having fun, smiling each and every day, and it brings me to joy because it's like if my kid was like that, I would feel down, I would feel sad. But if I see that there's a smile on their face, I'd be happy. So it really does. It brings me to joy when I help kids like that, and I like giving back to the community.
That's awesome. Respect to you for that.
Yes, sir.
So, I think it's been a really good conversation.
Yes, sir.
I really wish you the best in this process, and I'm really glad that you've gotten to this event. It's going to be fun to go down there and see you in Fort Worth in January.
Yes, sir.
You take it easy, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this, man.
I appreciate you, John. Nothing but love this way, and God bless. You have a great rest of your day.
You too, buddy. We'll see you.
God bless, John. God bless.